Welcome back. You're watching Sports Federation TV. And if you've just tuned in, we're continuing our talk on sailing. Right now, Matt Whitehead from Sailing has joined us, and he'll be telling us all about the Hobie Tiger National Championships. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks. So this last weekend we've had some unbelievable racing. Like you said, it was the SA Nationals for the Hobie Tiger class. There were 22 entries. It's an unbelievably competitive fleet. It's I think our top world champs are all sailing this last weekend. So there was about 7 world champions, previous world champions. Likes of Sean Ferry, who's actually a 3-time world champion on Hobies.
All South Africans.
All South Africans, yeah.
So when you say the national championship, it means that this event is exclusively South African waters.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and what was the route then?
So it's all round buoy racing. It's not a long distance offshore race. So they will go out into an area. It was hosted in Longabon by Hobie Cape and Longabon Yacht Club. So they allowed us, obviously, through sandparks to sail in the waters of Longabon Lagoon. And they'll set a course around the lagoon with little markers for us to race around.
So for 2016, you've earned some bragging rights, hey?
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about what you've accomplished?
So 2016 was quite a busy year for us. It was both the small boat and big boat racing. I myself also compete actually against Hilton in the big boat circuit, so we've got quite a hot rivalry. So I sailed for UCT for the Rio race, as Hilton was also discussing his campaign. Great success getting the young guys on the water and competing and finishing the race. All safe and sound. But then also as much Hobie sailing as possible, trying to get it going and livening up the fleet in the Western Cape, and it's been awesome. Again, like now I've said, the SA Nationals has just happened, and next weekend we have the Cape Point Challenge, which is another awesome race from Fishhook out to Cape Point and back. So yeah, there's tons of racing to be done, and the fleet's growing every year.
How long have you been sailing?
As long as I can remember.
So since childhood?
Yes, yeah, for sure.
And how many of these Hobie Nationals have you competed in?
Probably since I was about 13 years old, every single one except maybe 2 or 3 years. It's kind of been that weekend's always blocked off for the racing.
Is there different disciplines in sailing as a whole? Is it an umbrella sport with different disciplines under it?
Yeah, it's actually an interesting sport in terms of the different types of boats you can sail. So it's a multi-layered sport. So, but if you look on broad terms, you get dinghy sailing, which are like Hobie Cats and Mirrors and Dabchicks and Optimus. So these are all little boats where you normally get 1 or 2 sailors on the boat. Then you start going into the keelboat sailing, which are the yachts you see, in the harbour and that sort of thing. So that's a different type of discipline of sailing where it requires a lot of teamwork and specific skills on the boat. Whereas the dinghies, it's basically sailing talent. It's one-on-one. So when Matthew was talking about the Hobie Tiger Nationals, it's a catamaran, a Hobie Tiger with 2 sailors on it. So each team has 2, and that's basically you're racing against similar speed boats, similar speed, which is dinghy sailing.
Matthew, where's your home club?
Longabon Yacht Club.
Longabon.
Yeah,
Are you from the West Coast?
Yes, I am. Yeah, so I had a bit of a hometown advantage this last weekend.
Is sailing something that runs in your family?
It does, yeah. Both my parents and my grandparents have all been known for sailing, and my dad and my grandfather actually won the 1978 Hobie World Champs together, sailing as a team.
So for people who don't have yachts or dinghies or boats,
there's such a misconception that they always say yachting or sailing is a rich man's sport. It's a complete.
Why would they say that?
Utter rubbish. Because you might have one guy that can afford to buy the boat, but he's still got to find 8, 9, 10, 11 crew. So it's a very much a participative sport, for anyone or everyone.
You were a skipper, right, on your Cape to Rio race?
Yes, yeah, I was the skipper. Yeah.
But you would have probably had to throughout your life as a developing sailor, you would have had to move up the ranks to get to
Yes.
that point.
Yeah, you
Hey.
do. It's all about, building your skill set and gaining experience. So in the Cape to Rio, we decided we were going to go with 2 skippers. So I had a co-skipper, which was Francois Cattell. And because when I'm off watch sleeping, then you want someone on deck that's in charge. So we decided to go with a co-skipper format on the Rio race. Yeah.
I'm a little bit jealous actually doing this interview. So, how often do you have to go out on the water? How often do you need to just to develop that skill?
Obviously, it's like any other sport, practice makes perfect. So as many hours as you can get. In my case, if I can get out for a fun sail on the weekends, it's not necessarily hardcore training at the moment, but in peak season, when it's maybe 2-3 times a week, you can get out on the water. Obviously, the level that you're competing at when it gets to like the Olympic guys training on the 470s, they're out there for hours on end, all day, every day.
The Olympic sailing team, you've mentioned
Yes,
that
yes.
now. How do we do South Africa? I mean, in those kind of events.
Look, it's very expensive to do an Olympic campaign, for a relatively small country like South Africa in terms of disposable funds, for sailing or whatever minority sport it is. The guys primarily fund themselves, so they raise their own money and that, and then SASCOC does make a contribution. So we are very under-resourced when it comes to sailing and competing in the Olympics. So I think our guys, they basically came about halfway, if I remember.
Yeah, mid-fleet. Yeah.
Mid-fleet in the Olympics. To get a medal in the Olympics is quite a huge investment, and the Americans and the Australians, the French and the British, they dominate the sport of
So
sailing.
it's resources. It comes
It's
down to
resources,
resources.
yeah.
I guess with all our sports,
Yeah, exactly.
it comes down to that.
Well, to give you an idea, in France, sailing is a massive sport. The government spends hundreds of millions of euros on developing young kids to become sailors. I'll give you an example. The Vendée Globe, which is a round-the-world yacht race, which is single-handed on these 60-foot yachts. When they left the town in Brittany on the Atlantic coast in France, they had 500,000 spectators at the venue to see these guys off. So it's a huge sport there. So in South Africa, we're very much a kind of amateur sport here, but we all love it and we're all passionate about it.
So for those who are interested in the sport, where can they find more information?
The sport is surprisingly accessible. So you can join any if you're interested in learning on a dinghy, which I talked about, the smaller two-man or single-handed boats. There's a lot of yacht clubs. There's Sikufle Yacht Club, which is near Grassy Park. There's Milton Aquatic Club. So you just go there, say you're keen on sailing, and then people will point you in the right direction.
And I suppose there must be a Sailing South Africa Facebook page or
Yes.
Western Cape Facebook page.
Yeah.
So for parents and adults alike who want to get more information. Great.
Absolutely.
So, what's your favorite race?
Locally or overseas?
Well, I'll let you give
Your
me one of
favourite.
each.
I think it would have to be the Rolex Middle Sea race. It starts,
Rolex.
Yes, it starts in Malta and it races around Sicily, back around a couple of small islands, back to finishing in Malta.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you competed in that yet?
Lucky enough, yeah, I did. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, with your own South African team.
It was, yes, it was predominantly South African team. It was a Swan 53 Music. It's owned by a Joburg sailor named by James Blakemore. He put an unbelievable campaign together, and he's actually been focusing a lot on bringing the youth through his campaign, kind of giving the guys an opportunity when they want to take their sailing to the next level to it's like a stepping stone into the overseas circuit, which is, as most sailors would know, quite a tough break to make overseas. It was awesome experience for me, and definitely my favorite.
Okay, and locally?
Could be next or 2 weekends time, the Cape Point Challenge.
Okay.
If not the Mykonos offshore race.
So people can come and watch those races from land, I presume, especially at Cape Point.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, and what date is the Cape Point Challenge?
It's in 2 weeks' time, so I'm sorry, I think it's the weekend of the 1st.
The weekend of
Yeah.
the 1st. Okay, and for you, are you going to say Cape to Rio?
Yeah, I suppose it's a case of what would be my favorite I'd like to do is I'd like to do the Sydney Hobart race in Australia. And up to now, my favorite races have been quite a few. I did the Caribbean 600 last year in the Caribbean and Antigua, which was fantastic. It was fantastic because of the boats that were there. I mean, the most unbelievable, awesome sailing boats you'll ever see. And then for me, the Cape to Rio, you know, I've decided I want to do it again. I absolutely love the experience. It's a challenge, as you know, you in the opening comment. You know, it's a marathons run at the Comrades, you know, and the mountain biker, the Cape Epic, you know. So the Cape to Rio is our Cape Epic, you know.
Okay, fantastic. I remember a couple of years ago, there was an article in the newspaper about a young woman from Durban who had were joined a South African, you call it a campaign, hey, on the Cape to Rio. And it was such a big story because it was the first time that a woman from her community had joined one of those teams. How male-dominated is the sport? Are you seeing more women participating now professionally or semi-professionally?
Yeah, it is unfortunately a male-dominated sport, and that's just a pure function of strength. So what a lot of organizers are doing is they're trying to incentivize teams to have more women and youngsters on their team. So in other words, they'll allow more crew than if you just had men on the boat. So there are a lot of good incentives out there. Coming up at the end of this year is the Volvo Ocean Race, which is around the world yacht race of team races. And if you have women on the boat, you're allowed to have more people on the boat, which gives you probably a better chance of doing well in the race because you've got more hands.
So that's I suppose that's their response to getting the development up.
Yeah.
So the South African teams now, I mean, are they?
We do the same in South Africa on racing yachts.
Yeah.
So if you encourage under 18-year-olds onto your boat and women, then you're allowed to have more people on your boat in your race team. So again, it's more hands, more minds.
So in terms of development, you're saying the facilities are there, the access is there.
Yeah.
So if people are interested in the sport, then they can
For sure.
definitely get some more information and get involved.
Yeah. If you want to go sail in Table Bay, just go to Royal Cape Yacht Club. They've got a lovely academy there.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us
Pleasure.
and being able to tell us about all your amazing accomplishments. We wish you the best for the races coming up in 2017.
Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, that's it for tonight, folks. And thank you for joining us again. Sports Federation TV is the show that looks after all the sports in Western Cape. And if there's a sport that you're interested in, this is the show to watch. Be sure to join us every Friday night at 9 p.m. on CTV, repeated Saturday at 8 a.m. Have a fantastic sporting weekend. Goodbye.